Iran is not just a country. It is one of the oldest living civilizations on Earth, long before many modern nations existed, before the Roman Empire rose, before Europe became powerful. The lands of Iran were already home to cities, kings, trade routes, temples, armies, poets, scientists, and empires. To the ancient world, this land was known as Persia. To its people, it was more than an empire. It was a center of identity, culture, language, faith, and power. Iran has been conquered, divided, invaded, modernized, revolutionized, and isolated. Yet somehow, it has never disappeared. Its history is a story of survival, a story of kings and conquerors, a story of religion, poetry, oil, revolution, and resistance. So how did ancient Persia become modern Iran? And why does this country still shape world politics, culture, and history today? This is the entire history of Iran. The story of Iran begins thousands of years ago, long before the name Persia appeared in history. The Iranian Plateau was home to ancient human settlements. This region sat between Mesopotamia, Central Asia, the Indian subcontinent, and the Caucasus. That location made it extremely important. It became a bridge between civilizations, trade, migration, language, farming, and warfare, all passed through this land. One of the earliest powerful civilizations connected to Iran was Elam. Elam existed in southwestern Iran, near modern-day Kazakhstan. It was one of the great ancient cultures of the Near East, and often interacted with Mesopotamian powers, like Sumer, Akkad, Babylon, and Assyria. But the people who would later define Iran's identity were the Indo-Iranian tribes, who gradually entered the plateau. Among them were the Medes and the Persians. At first, they were not world rulers. They were tribal groups, living under the shadow of stronger empires. But that would change dramatically, because from these lands would rise one of the greatest empires the ancient world had ever seen. In the 6th century BC, a leader emerged from the Persian tribes. His name was Cyrus the Great. Cyrus founded the Achaemenid Empire, the first great Persian empire. And what he built changed world history. Cyrus defeated the Medes, conquered Lydia in Anatolia, and then captured Babylon. But unlike many ancient conquerors, Cyrus became famous not only for military power, but also for his style of rule. He allowed conquered peoples to keep their customs, languages, and religions. This helped him control a massive empire without destroying every culture inside it. Under Cyrus and his successors, Persia became the largest empire the world had seen up to that time. It stretched from the Indus Valley in the east to Egypt and Asia Minor in the west. The Persian Empire connected different peoples under one imperial system. It had roads, messengers, administrators, taxes, armies, and local governors, known as satraps. One of its most famous achievements was the Royal Road, a vast network that helped messages and goods travel across the empire. The Persians also built magnificent capitals, including Persepolis, a ceremonial city that became a symbol of Persian greatness. Under Darius the Great, the empire became even more organized. Darius created systems of administration, standardized taxation, and expanded infrastructure. At its height, the Achaemenid Empire was not just powerful, it was sophisticated, it was multicultural. It was a true world empire. But no empire stands forever, and Persia would soon face a rising power from the west. The Persian Empire eventually came into conflict with the Greek city-states. These conflicts became known as the Greco-Persian Wars. Persian kings like Darius and Xerxes launched campaigns against Greece, but the Greeks resisted fiercely. Battles like Marathon, Thermopylae, Salamis, and Plataea became legendary. Although Persia remained powerful, the wars left a deep mark on both Greek and Persian memory. Then, more than a century later, a young king from Macedonia appeared, Alexander the Great. In the 4th century BC, Alexander launched a massive campaign against Persia. He defeated the Persian king Darius III in a series of battles, and eventually captured the empire. Persepolis was burned. The Achaemenid Empire collapsed. But Alexander's conquest did not erase Iran. Instead, it created a new cultural period. Greek influence entered the region, but Iranian traditions survived. After Alexander's death, his empire broke apart. Iran became part of the Seleucid Empire, ruled by one of Alexander's generals and his descendants. But Greek rule did not last forever. A new Iranian power rose from the northeast, the Parthians. The Parthian Empire became one of Rome's greatest rivals. For centuries, Rome and Parthia competed for control of the Near East. The Parthians were skilled horsemen, famous for their cavalry tactics, and archers. They controlled major trade routes, including parts of the Silk Road. This made Iran a key link between East and West. After the Parthians, another great Iranian dynasty rose, the Sasanian Empire. The Sasanians saw themselves as heirs to ancient Persian glory. They revived Persian traditions, strengthened Zoroastrianism, and built a powerful centralized state. Their empire became one of the two superpowers of the late ancient world, standing opposite the Roman and later Byzantine Empire. The Sasanians fought long wars with Rome and Byzantium. They built cities, supported art and learning, and shaped Iranian identity deeply. Zoroastrianism, one of the world's oldest organized religions, was strongly connected to Sasanian rule. But centuries of war weakened both the Byzantines and Sasanians, and in the 7th century, a new force emerged from Arabia, Islam. In the 7th century, Arab Muslim armies defeated the Sasanian Empire. This was one of the greatest turning points in Iranian history. The old empire collapsed. Zoroastrianism gradually declined. Islam became the dominant religion. Arabic became the language of administration and religious scholarship. But Iran did not simply disappear. into the Arab Islamic world. Instead, something remarkable happened. Iran absorbed Islam, but preserved its own cultural identity. Persian language, literature, memory, and traditions survived. Over time, Persian became one of the great languages of Islamic civilization. Iranian scholars, poets, administrators, philosophers, and scientists played a major role in the Islamic Golden Age. This was not just a period of conquest. It was a period of transformation. Iran became Islamic, but it also helped shape Islamicate civilization. Persian culture spread across Central Asia, India, Anatolia, and beyond. The Persian language became a language of poetry, administration, and high culture, and then came one of the greatest literary works in Iranian history, the Shahnameh, or Book of Kings, written by Ferdowsi. The Shahnameh preserved Iran's ancient myths, heroes, kings, and identity. It reminded people that Iran had a story older than conquest. After the Islamic conquest, Iran was ruled by many dynasties. Some were Arab, some Turkic, some Persian, and some Central Asian. The Abbasid Caliphate ruled much of the Islamic world, but local Iranian dynasties gradually gained power. The Samanids helped revive Persian culture. The Seljuks brought Turkic rule, but also supported Persian administration and art. Iran was becoming a cultural heart of the Islamic world. Then, in the 13th century, disaster came. The Mongols, under Genghis Khan and his successors, Mongol armies swept across Central Asia and Iran. Cities were destroyed. Populations were massacred. Libraries, farms, and irrigation systems suffered terribly. The Mongol invasion was one of the most devastating events in Iranian history. But again, Iran survived. The Mongols eventually settled, converted to Islam, and adopted many Persian administrative and cultural traditions. Later, Timur, also known as Tamerlane, brought another wave of conquest and violence. Yet even through destruction, Persian culture remained powerful. Iran continued producing poetry, architecture, science, and art. This ability to absorb invaders and transform them is one of the most extraordinary patterns in Iranian history. Conquerors entered Iran, but Iran often reshaped the conquerors. In the early 16th century, a new dynasty changed Iran forever: the Safavids. Under Shah Ismail I, the Safavid Empire rose and made 12er Shia Islam the official religion of Iran. This decision deeply shaped Iranian identity. Before this, many Muslims in Iran were Sunni, but under the Safavids, Shia Islam became central to the state. This created a strong distinction between Iran and its powerful Sunni neighbors, especially the Ottoman Empire to the west and the Uzbek powers to the east. The Safavids created a more unified Iranian state. Their capital, Isfahan, became one of the most beautiful cities in the world. Under Shah Abbas the Great, Iran experienced military, economic, and artistic revival. Architecture, carpets, miniature painting, trade, and urban design flourished. The famous saying described Isfahan as half the world. The Safavid period is one of the most important chapters in Iranian history because it helped form the religious and political identity of modern Iran. Iran was no longer only the memory of ancient Persia. It became a Shia Islamic Persian state with a distinct identity. After the Safavids declined, Iran entered a period of instability. Different rulers and dynasties fought for control. Eventually, the Qajar dynasty took power. In the late 18th century, under the Qajars, Iran faced a new challenge: European imperial pressure. Russia and Britain became deeply involved in Iranian affairs. Russia expanded southward and took territories from Iran in the Caucasus. Britain became interested in Iran because of its position near India. Iran was never fully colonized, like some countries, but foreign powers heavily influenced its politics, economy, and territory. In the early 20th century, oil changed everything. The discovery of oil made Iran strategically important to global powers. Foreign control over Iranian oil became one of the biggest sources of anger and nationalism. During this period, Iranians also began demanding political reform. The Constitutional Revolution of 1905 to 1911 was a major moment. People wanted rule of law, limits on royal power, and a national parliament. This showed that Iran was not just fighting foreign pressure, it was also struggling internally over power, modernization, religion, monarchy, and national identity. In the 20th century, the Qajar dynasty was replaced by the Pahlavi dynasty. Reza Shah Pahlavi came to power and began a forceful modernization program. He built infrastructure, expanded the army, promoted nationalism, and tried to reduce foreign influence. In 1935, the country officially requested to be called Iran internationally. Although Iran had long been used by its people, his son, Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi, later ruled during one of the most dramatic periods in modern Iranian history. Iran's oil became central to its politics. In the early 1950s, Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh nationalized the oil industry, challenging British control. This made him extremely popular among many Iranians. But in 1953, Mossadegh was overthrown in a coup supported by foreign intelligence services. The Shah's power increased after that. He pursued modernization, land reform, women's rights reforms, industrial development, and closer ties with the West. But beneath the surface, anger was growing. Many Iranians saw his rule as authoritarian. Political opposition was restricted. Religious leaders, leftists, nationalists, students, and ordinary citizens became increasingly frustrated. Modernization was happening, but many felt it came without freedom, equality, or cultural respect. This tension eventually exploded. In 1979, the Iranian Revolution changed the country and the world. Millions of people protested against the Shah. The movement included different groups: religious conservatives, students, workers, intellectuals, nationalists, and leftists. But after the Shah left Iran, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini became the central figure of the new order. The monarchy ended. The Islamic Republic was established. Iran became a state where religious authority and political power were deeply connected. This revolution transformed Iran's identity, foreign relations, legal system, and society. It also shocked the world. A country once closely aligned with the West became one of the strongest critics of Western influence in the Middle East. Then, soon after the revolution, Iran faced another disaster: war. In 1980, Iraq, led by Saddam Hussein, invaded Iran. The Iran-Iraq War lasted 8 years. It was brutal, costly, and devastating. Hundreds of thousands of people died. Cities were bombed. Chemical weapons were used by Iraq. A whole generation of Iranians experienced sacrifice, trauma, and nationalism through war. The war strengthened the Islamic Republic's internal identity and deepened its sense of resistance. After the war, Iran had to rebuild. In the decades that followed, Iran became a major regional power. It developed strong military, political, and ideological influence across the Middle East. At the same time, Iran faced sanctions, economic pressure, political unrest, internal debates, and ongoing tensions with Western governments. Inside Iran, society remained complex. Iran is often described from the outside only through politics. But the country is much more than that. It has a highly educated population, a rich artistic tradition, major cinema, ancient architecture, deep poetry, scientific ambition, and a young society, constantly negotiating between tradition and modern life. Iranian identity today is layered. It includes ancient Persian heritage, Islamic faith, Shia tradition, revolutionary politics, modern nationalism, and global cultural influence. So why does Iran matter so much? Because Iran is not a small historical footnote. It has been a center of civilization for thousands of years. It helped shape empire building, administration, religion, trade, literature, philosophy, and art. Its location connects the Middle East, Central Asia, South Asia, and the Caucasus. Its oil and gas resources made it globally important. In the modern age, its political choices continue to affect regional and international affairs. But beyond politics, Iran matters because it represents one of history's greatest examples of cultural survival. Empires invaded it, religions transformed it, foreign powers pressured it, Revolutions reshaped it. Wars damaged it. But Iran endured. From Elam to Persia. From Cyrus to Persepolis. From Zoroastrian fire temples to Islamic scholarship. From Mongol destruction to Persian poetry. From Safavid Isfahan to modern Tehran. Iran's story is not one straight line. It is a cycle of rise, fall, transformation, and rebirth. And that is what makes Iran so fascinating. It is ancient, but still alive, wounded, but not erased, changed, but never empty of memory. Iran is not just the story of a nation, it is the story of a civilization that refused to disappear. The history of Iran is one of the longest and most complex stories on earth. It is a history of power, beauty, conquest, faith, resistance, and identity. To understand Iran today, we must look far beyond the headlines. We must look at the empires, poets, kings, revolutions, and people who shaped it across thousands of years. Because Iran is not only a place on the map, it is one of the great crossroads of human civilization, and its story is still being written.